Okay. Well, this one's kind of an extension of something I think we've kind of hit on a few times with the idea of like religion kind of disappeared in the sense that it has out of the majority of most of people in this society's lives, and it kind of seemingly left like a hole that my theory is that is being filled by certain other things, like certain other things to maybe draw a meaning from. And I thought we would kind of talk about one of those things, which would be the semi-modern phenomenon of superheroes, comic book heroes. Because I mean, my idea kind of is that like stories of like, let's say, Captain America or Spider-Man or whatever like that would have maybe served the function of providing stories and characters that children can emulate and learn from and believe in for want of a better term.
Kind of like an analogue to saints and apostles, I guess.
So people probably in the day would have gone like, whoa, what would have Jesus done or whatever, and then they would have maybe come up with answers because of that. Maybe not answering that question, looking at that, but they would have had these, archetypal figures that they could say, this is the best kind of behaviour in this kind of situation. This
like
is that. This is something to
morals.
aspire to. Sort of driving force for morals. Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And yeah, I think for a start, that is the superhero comics and in their advent, over the last probably 100 years or so, have served that function, especially for young people. Because if you think that the people for thousands of years were born into families with like some sort of religious or spiritual or some sort of like fantastical worldview ideas that they can then think things are more interesting and more fantastic than they would have been
something
otherwise.
To aspire to.
Yeah, but something to make things feel specialer and in some way magical in a way. I think that's half of the allure of a religion.
Fantastic.
It's people don't necessarily believe it because it's believable. It's because it's less believable that they believe it. I think in a way it's something that's like it's something bigger to believe in, I guess, than what's just in front of people. And this is from the perspective of somebody who's not religious, and at the very least in the traditional sense. I mean, if I am religious, I occupy a religion of one.
Yeah, that's how I look at it myself. But I think we just call this spirituality in like the modern age.
Yeah, I think I've said to you before. I don't know if I've mentioned it in any recorded footage, but one of my earliest memories, I'll say it's not earliest, but one of my early-ish childhood memories was being about 8 years old and having the first proper religious studies lesson, and then thinking, there's all these different religions. It's not it's not just the 2 or 3 that I heard of before. And then the first thought that occurred to me was, Miss, can I start my own religion? And then she kind of looked at me with that look that teachers gave me a lot when I asked them a question, and turned her head sideways and said, I don't see why not. And I was like, good. That's good.
At least that's a good answer. She could have like shut you down and gone, no, that's silly for absolutely no viable reason whatsoever.
Yeah, no, she was pretty good actually.
That's
I think
good.
she came from an art background.
If someone's going to teach about religion in school, I think that's the kind of people you should have teaching about religion in school. That it's free flowing and there's no rules.
Well, yeah, which is probably the opposite of what the religions teach a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Although,
but to be able to teach about multiple different religions, they at least need to be able to like have that grasp.
Yeah. But religion needs to be somewhat free flowing to be able to be accommodating to people. So we can't adapt to different people, then it isn't going to work for different people. But yeah, I think that was what I was going to say. Yeah, although if you look traditionally, the way that comic books have been pursued as sort of like this kind of,
it's like
subculture. That.
But it's become modern culture because of a need.
Exactly.
There's been instead of being this small niche fringe hobby,
it's been monetized.
Yeah.
I mean, it was obviously monetized to start with, but now it's like
but it was just because
hyper monetized.
Someone wanted
Disney
to make
owns
comics.
it.
Now they were labours of love historically.
I mean, it's funny I say that. Disney doesn't own comics, but they might as well.
They might as well.
They don't own superheroes, but they might as well.
If 40% of it's DC, 40% of it's Marvel, and then 20% of it's like loads of little fringe companies, then they own 40% of comics.
And even
that's a significant like holding.
I think the idea of superheroes now is probably synonymous with Marvel. Which would probably mean that Disney owns what
is funny because
has served
if
as a substitute for religion to people.
And if we're going to use the religion analog with it, because there's always been wars over religion. There are wars between DC and Marvel. It's people feel like they need to pick one or the other, and it's us and them situation that gets created because of that, which is an interesting way to look at it as well. But it is like before we'd learn about Jesus going into the desert and being tempted by Satan and shit like that.
Exactly.
And now it's
stories like that.
Your superhero goes through and they have their sort of plight in their individual tales, and you've got to look at the morals coming out of it at the end, and that's what it's all about.
Or
at least it was. Probably less so now because it seems like they've all evolved into comedies based on who can make the most comical retorts, rather than like that's what they've become because they realised it was popular amongst some of them, and now they're trying to force that into all of them. But before that became like the meta of Marvel superhero films that sort of bled into everything else. In the first few Spider-Man films, they weren't comedies, they weren't making jokes constantly. It was let's look at this a bit more seriously. And again, it was more of a here's the hero, here's his plight, here's him being tempted, here's him being forced into situations where he struggles, and he's got to look at, does he use his power, which could be does he turn to religion, or does he cast that away for a simpler life without the responsibility, etc., etc. So it just goes on and on.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look back to...
People aren't aware that this is going on, though, because it's all subconscious.
Because there's no coincidence that a lot of superhero characters, Thor, for example, they're drawn from ancient religious mythology.
True. This one's based off
They've literally
Egyptian
copied
mythology.
and pasted. I mean, it's surprising in a way that Marvel haven't tried to create Jesus or something in a Jesus the superhero movie and just cut to the chase. Honestly, I think that would be brilliant, but
but they have to pay us the rights because we've just come up with that idea.
Well, maybe Family Guy would actually have to call the rights. Was it Family Guy that had like a Jesus action movie or something like that as part of one of their spoofs?
I don't know, but then Kevin Smith had the Jesus action figure, Buddy Christ.
Yeah, Buddy Christ, yeah. There's probably a lot of room for development there. Not that they really should, but
like I talked about before about corporations being false idols. This is just one amongst many things that we've decided it works as a running series because so many things get used to fill the hole that religion's left, and I don't want religion filling that hole because I'm not particularly fond of religions because they're very rigid and not structured, but just...
Because I've said before that I think philosophy can fill the hole anyway, and it's like the good part of religion is I think the philosophy side of it.
Because some aspects of religion don't allow for free thought. If you're going against the established rules or the established ideas, then you're not part of that religion. You're cast aside. You're questioned. You become an outsider. On the cult side aspect. But something like philosophy, which is all about free thought, or it should be, unfortunately, sometimes it looks like, especially with some of your fucking textbooks, they're trying to push that down. So maybe religion's bleeding into philosophy,
I have written
unfortunately.
Proof that academia is infested with all kinds of
maybe it goes both ways.
Hyper-progressive nonsense.
Because of the way that, if I'm going to call social justice a cult... It's got a religious mentality.
It is in a sense. Again,
I think that warrants its own one, so we'll save that. But these things end up... Religion has bled into them, so these things have taken on religion-like attributes of
I mean, social
having
justice
a
is
right
a cult,
think and wrong
but
think.
it also isn't a cult. I think there's two ways it manifests. There's the social justice advocates, so the ones that are creating it, and then there may be the people who are buying it, I suppose, who are just like, okay, this is reality, this is correct. When the media tells me that there's a spectrum of genders, I should believe that or whatever. And it's like,
Because the TV doesn't lie.
There is or isn't necessarily,
again,
but it's...
there's another one. Television is another thing that fills the religion-shaped hole, so these things will write themselves.
Yeah. This is the thing. I mean, like I said before, I think the thing that should fill the religion-shaped hole, maybe...
Traditional
I would say,
philosophy.
I would probably say is that,
It should be the discovery of reality.
Yeah. And
trying to understand... the God within us.
For want of a better term, yeah. And I mean, again, it's a bit of a tangent now, but I've mentioned how atheists, if they're the secular moralist sort of atheists, the ones that are looking for some sort of objective morality, and that they're basically worshipping good.
Yeah, I like that as like a thing.
And God and good are only one letter different. I know that's only a wordplay. But if you think about the amount of times that good is referenced in like the Bible, for example, and things like that, like God is good. That's what they say, isn't it? So it's like, well, aren't you just arguing for the same thing from an opposite direction? Like from a different perspective. But they both seem to be getting to the same conclusion. So I suppose there's at least that. And I mean, maybe what they're doing is filling the religion-shaped hole with that philosophy. But, if you're going
to fill it with something, I think that's probably one of the best things to fill it with, because at least there's something achieved.
I mean, I can't think of anything better, and I think it's served people well, in the past and in the present. It's generally served me well. I mean, I was as a young child, I probably was an atheist. It didn't take me long to figure out that actually that's a little bit jumping the gun to think that there is no chance that there is anything like something that could be described as a god, because I can't tell, or how could I know? So let's not be too hasty and rule out the unknown sort of thing. But sidetracked.
That's all good.
Yeah.
So tell me about how the implementation
Completely
of
different
video assistant referee
now.
in the Premier League is going to be a value of keeping it real. There's one time we're going to talk about football, because it's not my subject.
I'm
happy to entertain
we'll take
it.
this one opportunity to talk about football.
Let's talk about football. We're doing it.
Because I quite like football. I probably like football like most people like football. I don't like going to games. I don't have a particular team I support. Like England
you
winning.
don't like a team. You just like football. You just want to see a good game, and I can respect that a lot. You just want to see some good play.
Because as
you
a
want
kid,
to see people doing their best.
I by the time I was about 13, I figured out that I was supporting teams for arbitrary reasons, and then I just gave up supporting teams for arbitrary reasons.
I can respect that though.
It was always I supported Aston Villa for a while because my best mate supported Aston Villa, so I was like, well, I mean, I was playing football with him, so I'll be like,
I was never into football, but
I idolized
my cousin.
It was
my
the only
cousin
team that I knew
Aston
anything
Villa.
about, so I was like, but I liked them because they were, they had interesting players. The team was very unique, and they got relegated, I think, a couple of seasons later. No, they didn't. No, they started failing. They got relegated recently. Went up to the Premier League this season. Either way, couldn't really, pick a team because I decided that was not something worth doing. But either way, just to get back on track, because I'm distracting myself here. Recently, they've implemented this video assistant referee, or V.A.R, in the Premier League to basically act as like a decision-making system, or an external decision-making system for refereeing decisions.
So it's is it using algorithms, or is it just...
No, basically they get a video, and they've got total control over the video, and the video, I suppose, I'm not too sure exactly how it works, but I'm presuming it can kind of... It's a high-tech bit of kit. It's a really high-tech video or something. So
it can see
distances. There's at least some people who are watching this thing, and they'll zoom in and change angles or whatever, look at different views, and then decide if a goal was offside, or if a penalty was an actual penalty. Say if a handball happened that the referee didn't see just before a goal scored, and then they can see it on the video and go, oh, word in the referee's ear via communicator, and then say, oh, okay, you have to rule the goal up. And they've just implemented
things the referee can't see.
Yeah,
and
things that would affect, and it's just for goals as well. So it's if it would affect either a goal scoring opportunity or if a goal is scored, and then they'll assess it. And and to the lead, I mean, this has been in the running, something that is going to be implemented probably the last decade or so, that they've been talking about. When should we do this?
Until we get
is this a good
cyborg
thing?
referees that can see the whole pitch simultaneously.
Because they've been saying the technology is available, it's just a matter of implementing it. And now they finally implemented it after this whole period of time of people talking it up and saying, no, we have to have this thing. Oh, having this would be so much better. We need to make use of the technology and all this sort of thing. And now they've implemented it this season, and it's two games in, 2 weekends in. Third day of the season will be tomorrow, I think. And yeah, they're already in the Match of the Day studio asking philosophical questions about, is this a good idea, and making arguments appealing to the organic nature of football in its raw sense, as opposed to the artificial and engineered version, the unnatural version, I suppose, of football. And I thought this was really interesting because it was something I'd been saying about things in general.
So elaborate on that further for me. So break it down more basically.
Well, okay, let's think of an example of something. So let's say there was a goal that was ruled out that basically let a game finish as a draw, and it was like a last minute winner or something like that. Man City would have stole the game off of, I think it was Tottenham,
so in a natural
possibly.
Game of football that may have been the case, and one team would have won over the other.
The goal was ruled out because it was the faintest
football
of brush on a hand on the way through, and in any other game that would have been a goal that the fans would have gone home and gone. And in this sense, this time they've just basically what they are saying is that has then ruined the organic state of joyousness that would occur from the result of this goal. We've just basically crushed a whole bunch of people's dreams.
So referees not being able to tell things, or maybe making mistakes, or maybe making bad calls, is part of the organic nature of football. Yeah, exactly. So the fact, it's all just handmade in a way, isn't it? It's all handcrafted, human crafted. The more. But if cavemen were kicking a sphere around and one of the cavemen was making judgment calls, then that caveman might have been
there
making.
There is such a thing as going too far backwards, I suppose. Yeah,
but you get my point.
That's
what I mean in the sense of being natural.
But
doesn't necessarily mean I agree, but
I think that sort of thing
perspective.
Isn't. I mean, you can make something better without making it more organic. I'm not too sure that would be more organic. That would just be a different state of organic.
If things are technically correct, isn't that the best kind of correct, as the phrase goes?
I like multi-dimensionally correct, but technically correct is good. It's a good start. If it's going to be any one kind of correct, then that's probably a good one. But I think multiple kinds of correct.
If something can be multiple kinds of correct simultaneously,
that's what I call a squared truth. Truth that's been multiplied.
I like that, and that's a very good point, and I definitely agree with it, because if you can be correct on multiple facets, then it's a
truth times by a truth.
It's the closest to a truth. Yeah.
2 kinds of truth is not just 2 kinds of truth. It's 2 times 2 kinds of truth. It's 4 kinds of truth almost.
No, I like that.
Makes the first truth even truer.
How do you feel personally about it?
I mean, personally, they seem to be coming to the conclusions that I had already kind of decided beforehand, because I was a bit I like the idea of bringing artificial technology into a game that can be played at Kickabout in the Park or whatever. I think on the bigger stage it should be a bigger version of the same thing that people can do on a pitch.
Then you've got to respect, because I'm not a fan of gambling anyway, but then saying gambling occurs based on football matches, so You want, if there's those kind of stakes in play, you probably want people to get the closest to reality's outcome rather than mistakes were made, people were accidentally or inadvertently cheating.
Reality's outcome is still going to be reality's
outcome
regardless.
But perceived reality.
Once the final whistle blows, it's still going to be no different for each gambler. So it'd be a strange.
But imagine if someone had like a grand riding on that for one team to win, and had that handball gone missed. There could be a sudden massive difference in someone's like lifestyle or whatever, and that's their own responsibility.
If somebody had it the bet the other way,
oh yeah, totally.
So it would still level out. But I mean, yeah.
But then
that would be the same problem
that
the fans of football would have, but for gamblers. And I think you should probably, football should appeal to the football fans rather than the gamblers.
Oh yeah, totally. But we've got to respect the fact that this does occur and it does exist.
I can see that. Well, then that would be no different to how it was before then, and that always worked fine. And I mean, it wasn't like gambling was falling out of favour or anything like that, was it?
No. But you wouldn't want to like lose something to truth being not acknowledged properly because you weren't able to acknowledge the truth because you can't.
The way I see it is the truth is what the referee decides.
So you're saying like
it's
the referee's like got a judge. The word of God. They can make the decision based on how they interpret
the referee's
reality.
word's final. That's part of the game. That's how the rules work. And the referee is almost like the player of themselves.
Yeah.
So
I've
having a good referee and a bad referee, like sometimes you watch a game and that team played well, team played okay.
But that was a shit
The referee had a shocker.
Yeah.
But in this, you can't really, I thought one of the interesting things that could happen is you could spot when the referees get things wrong more, and you could be like, oh, that referee gets things wrong all the time. They're always changing his rulings because he keeps missing things, and this guy never gets anything wrong or whatever.
But should people be adjudicating based on
every time there's a check for offside, I'd be like, they're checking my job here. It'd be very disconcerting. You're like, did I get it right? Yes.
Yeah. Should people be adjudicating based on false premises, though?
In a game, if that's how the game's been designed to work, then yeah, I suppose. I don't know if it's adjudicating on false premises. It's not exactly how it is.
Yeah, they've misinterpreted reality.
Yeah,
they've seen things wrong, but as far as they're aware, they've seen it right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the difficult thing is, I suppose, the people have already called out with V.A.R. is that even that can't be completely unsubjective. You've still got a subjective person on the other end of the screen making a subjective judgment about it. So it's
I suppose you're increasing or decreasing your chances of making mistakes.
Yeah. I mean,
because you've got an entire
and I think
team
in some sense it's the delay as well. I mean, that's almost a separate thing. That's nothing to do with being organic. That's just a pain in the ass. You've got sometimes a 30-second to a minute wait
of people
checking to see if a decision's going to be made or not.
I can understand
that being a pain. Players can't celebrate. The fans can't celebrate. It's just
It's not goal. It's
like we have to,
he's done it. Hang on,
might have scored a goal.
Fuck. Right, hang on. Oh, come on, I've got my dance ready.
It's time to play.
No, hang on. Do I do the other
goal?
No. Moment's gone. Yeah, I can understand. So,
but it's for me at least, it seems like an example of implementing an inorganic element into things has made that whole thing just wrong. Suddenly it just all feels wrong.
People having these conversations like 4 or 5 years ago when F1 got changed because they got changed from petrol engines to electric engines. I don't really follow
Formula 1.
Neither do I. My family always did. I wasn't interested, but I can understand why people get annoyed by suddenly, instead of having like this more... I'd like to try and put forward like a minor argument that a petrol combustion engine might be considered slightly more organic in a loose sense than an electric engine because it's got a higher variable of how it operates and it's more likely to fail or it's more likely to have other inconsistencies. That means that the nature of the ability of the driver is more important. And people were suddenly very upset when it was like, oh, now there's these perfect electric engines that just sort of work really, really well and more efficiently. And while that's really good for the environment, and I can respect that, it was like, for them, it was this also this disappointment of like, it's been changed, and fair enough, it needed to be changed, but now it's just not the same. So I can understand why people get bothered by these things. Like,
yeah, I mean, organicness is a really hard thing to measure.
Yeah, I mean, I use it in a loose sense.
Sometimes maybe it gets to the point where it's like, it's if something's not organic, then I mean, how much more does it need to be not organic to be comparatively different in its organicness? It probably might just be now it's organic and now it's not, or this part of it is organic and this part of it is, and it depends what we mean by organic at the time as well. Petrol's probably more organic electricity, but then again, electricity does produce itself in nature, and petrol kind of doesn't, because you have to kind of make petrol.
Yeah, it's like refined oil, so they say like, oil.
Petroleum distillate.
But anyway,
learned that off Mr. Burns. Simpsons are so good for teaching things.
It is.
I learnt most of what I know from cartoons, which is probably why I'm so failed. But
Cool. So I'm going to go on to a cluster of subjects that kind of roll into each other, and I'm just going to introduce them one by one as we go. The first one's something that came up. I say came up recently. It comes up all the time, and I'm getting really frustrated at it. And I'll call it the falsehood of representation. Basically, the idea that, and this is the reason why we're seeing what the social justice warrior or the intersectional social justice crowd would term as having more diversity and more inclusion in media, games, any form of hobbies really. And through that, they think the purpose of this is that for people of certain races, certain genders, certain sexuality to enjoy a product, they need to see a bit of themselves in it. So they need to see a character that physically looks like them. Apparently that's a valid requirement. And if we're going to go like back to superheroes, for example, because that's quite a hot topic on it, and it's one that's coming up the most in, especially with some of the recent announcements the past few months for what they're doing in the future of the Marvel films. And that's the idea that, if we want people of colour to enjoy this, we need to make films that have lots of people of colour. If we want gay people to enjoy these films, we need lots of gay people as the characters. And I just don't agree with that. I just don't think that's a good idea. As a child, my favourite superhero, when I went, it was like, well, what all the superheroes, which one seems the coolest? For me, it was Black Panther. I'm not black. I still thought he was the coolest character. I thought he was like the most unique. I liked his backstory. I liked his idea. I liked his like fucking costume and everything. I thought, oh, brilliant! I love this character.
Yeah, I didn't really like superheroes that much when I was a kid, unless they were completely inhuman. I liked them the less human they were.
Yeah,
that's the better. I liked Teenage Mutant Turtles and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Toxic Crusaders. I love Toxic Crusaders. That was well good, man.
And for me, it's things like Beast Wars, which is about animals and robots, and it's like I'm neither of those. So I don't understand the mindset of someone who needs to see themselves represented and see a version of themselves in whatever media they want to enjoy, to be able to enjoy it or to be able to feel attached. And the argument goes that, they can't... The idea, and it's hard to word this, or maybe I'm misrepresenting them, and that's the problem. But seemingly, they can't feel empathy to something unless it looks like themselves. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem is not the media, maybe it's them. Because I can empathise with someone who doesn't look like me, I can empathise with someone of any race, any gender.
I mean, I could see if they were openly appealing to the idea of like inherent implicit biases or whatever, and they're trying to say that all people that are biased towards people who are more like them physically or
that's their
in
problem.
some sense or whatever. But yeah, that is true. This is it.
Why are we catering to prejudice? Because that's what it is. Why are we perpetuating the idea that you should only like something that is like you? I thought they were trying to achieve the opposite, but no. It seems like, oh no, the black kids are only allowed to like the black superheroes. Why are you creating more segregation? And we're seeing it in video games constantly. The thing that really brought this to the forefront of my mind this week was Mark Rosewater's Magic the Gathering article. Did you read that?
I didn't actually get around to reading it yet. No, I should have.
But he basically went on this long tirade of like 3 or so A4 pages worth of text. It seems of we need to make Magic the Gathering cards that look like brown people because then the brown people will like Magic the Gathering. We need to make this character is openly transgender, so it's more appealing to transgender people. It's like you didn't need to tell people that though, and they might have just gone, I like that card because I like it because and
it's not even a new thing really. I mean,
no,
it sounds like he's not saying anything he hasn't said before.
Yeah.
He's just saying it all in one go. But yeah, they've been trying to force in not just transgender characters into Magic the Gathering cards and lore and such like that, but openly try and make people aware. Hey, look, these people are the people, the cards.
Yeah, I really couldn't give two shits if there's a transgender Magic the Gathering character. I'm not upset by that. I'm upset by the principle
I've ever stopped to think, what does this character do with their genitals, and other gender do they like to put them in or on or around or
it
whatever.
Really shouldn't matter because that's not the subject. It should be what's their story, who are they? Yeah. What's their story, who are they, why have they got these motives? That's the interesting things I find about fictional characters.
Well, that's like I say,
I don't care about the arbitrary characteristics of what they were born with. I care about their story and who they became.
It's like
what actions they take. And sometimes not even that. If it's not a fucking human individual, you can find the appeal of fucking, like you say, with superheroes, robots, things that are inhuman, and not because you think, oh, that reminds me of me, because you're never going to feel that way. It's here's something mysterious, here's something different, here's something that just looks aesthetically pleasing. I like things that I like, not things that I am. I'm not really fond of things that I am.
I stopped watching the Marvel films a while ago, like pretty much almost as soon as they started coming out, to be honest. Like when they started really rolling out the Marvel chain. I mean, there's been Spider-Man films and such before, but again, they're just not what the whole idea of it's supposed to be. It's almost like they're trying to make it, I don't know, somehow normalised.
I think they only shit the bed like the past 4 or 5 years.
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
because there were a lot. There were like half a dozen films before it became, here we're going to start clustering them. So there's like 2 or 3 a year, and
but it wasn't
because it was all leading up to this big event of what they did with Infinity War. But
it's almost like the characters in them are always not larger than life enough.
Yeah, and also they also became the same character.
They're trying to make them so relatable that they've just stopped being super. They're just heroes.
Yeah.
There's nothing like special about them. There's nothing amazing, and it's all so banal. It's like everything seems like watered down, and maybe it's because I kind of got interested in Marvel from the actual cartoons and stuff, from like the X-Men animated series and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Which was great, even though it was really badly animated. It was still really good.
It was cheesy as hell, but it was the late 80s, early 90s. It didn't matter. That was as good as it got at the time, and we loved it for it. So
and I think there's something about those sort of presentations of the comic book heroes and such that worked really well, and I think it kind of translates very easily. It's pretty obvious how it works. So it's already drawn by hand. Let's draw it by hand again and then make it move. That works. But trying to make it so it's like these are people and they're just normal people, but they're superheroes. And here's another movie that's just like every other movie you've seen with the celebrities in it that you don't, you're sick of hearing about.
But then, everything it's happening with video games. It's here's companies are, as part of their virtue signaling, are going, oh, here's this character and it has these attributes. And it's like, right, don't tell me what it was born with. I don't care about its gender. I don't care about its race. I don't care about the religion that's been it's chosen, because that's not something I truly care about. Tell me about interesting things about them. I want to know what the morals they have. How they go about overcoming obstacles. If you want to play a character that looks like you, there are video games where you create a character that looks like you, and they're popular and they're enjoyable for their own reasons, and that's fine, because if you that's when you've got the chance to self-insert. And if you want to do that, that's fine, because also people who play those video games, they don't always create a character that looks like themselves. Sometimes they'll just go, I'm going to create whatever I think looks funny, I'm going to create whatever I think looks cool. It's not even necessarily an idealised version of themselves. It can be just, I want to, I'm a tiny little fucking white boy, and I want to create this great big black man because I think it will be, I want to create something that I feel is exotic in a sense. Whatever, so you give people the choice, because giving people the choice is giving them, equality of opportunity. And I think a choice is better than, shoehorning something. And then I've played dozens of video games where I've played characters that have nothing in common with me, and I really like the character because I care about them, I empathise with them, regardless of what they look like compared to myself. Something like, for example, James Heller in Video Game Prototype 2. He's a ex-army African-American who becomes infected with a virus that makes him sort of like transhuman to the point where, he can craft his arms into like giant blades or metamorphosis into other people, or take on a form of like something that looks very alien, in the sense of, his body becomes disformed and covered in like black spiky armor, and you can't recognize him as a human anymore at that stage. And it's like, I empathize with him because his character, he's trying to save his daughter throughout the plot of this game. I care about him trying to succeed in that goal, so I don't care that he's got nothing to do with me at all. Why do people lack this ability to empathise?
Things who aren't me, innit?
Yeah.
It's like, I already know me. I don't want to watch things about me.
I experience my life every day.
Yeah.
I want to experience other people's lives.
Yeah. Well, to be able to see things from another perspective,
exactly.
or whatever, or to at least see how other people see things from another perspective, even if I'm not going to agree with it.
I think if you need yourself to be represented to enjoy something, I don't have much respect for your level of intelligence.
I think the amount of people that actually think that is probably incredibly low. I think it's
But then
probably...
why are they acting like it's everyone and that's the way it is?
Because it's profitable.
Yeah.
Because they're basically saying that, it's probably more that the people creating this media's studies show that people will be drawn towards things when they've got representation in that. What the studies would also show is things get viewed when they're good. So you should worry more about that, like not try and let's micro engineer everything so it's all like psychologically targeted at different ways that people think.
Pleases the focus
groups. Just make a good piece of art.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Make projects of passion, labours of love, things
and
that
that's
you
the
like
problem.
doing.
I mean, since Stan Lee's inception of a lot of the characters in the early days of Marvel, it's just spiraled, and I think now there is no Stan Lee. It will probably his characters will just fade away unless somebody.
It seems so because they're
there's that word. Somebody cares enough.
They're replacing all the original Stan Lee characters
with
alternate versions of them that fit these sort of identity politics. And I mean, this is we've led into this next topic, which I'll say is disproportionate representation, where it feels like in order to bring equality in their weird perception of the term, that they're then using
inevitable
that
there's going to be disproportionate representation because
to balance out an injustice that
of these
perceived.
Minorities, and the clues in the word of minorities is a very small group of people that need a representation in a group of say 5 characters or whatever, and
it does feel forced. I don't think
contrived as hell.
Something like any race is being replaced or anything stupid like that. I don't subscribe to such nonsensical ideas anyway. But it's frustrating to see, and I don't want to then go back and then sound hypocritical. because I'm not frustrated by the fact that they're making a load of media, whether it's TV programs, films, video games, and other things, where it's not white people, for example, as the main characters. I don't care about what they are, but I do care about the principle behind it and why they're doing that. I can watch we've talked about, like, last time in the 90s there was sort of the veneration of African heritage people, and I didn't need to fucking be anyone but myself to go, I like Will Smith's character in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's hilarious. He's cool. I want him to succeed. I want to see him go through his trials and tribulations and come out a better man for it.
I think if you ask white people in the 80s and 90s, what do you think of black people? They would say something like cool, strong, easygoing, confident, like determined, like things like this.
That's how they would just portrayed, and it was great.
Yeah, and I think it was. I mean, we'll shoehorn this in now instead of like chatting at the end. Why not? We've kind of gone on this, but the British anti-racism thing, I think it's more like an exocultural reverence. So it's like external cultures to those of Western society are looked upon with reverence and with admiration and wonderment, because we're looking at something that is, it's in a sense, fantastical. Like it is like
it's fresh.
Exactly. And it's like, and that's not to be like it's not in a patronising way or anything
but
like that.
But we've looked at something as different as something interesting, because you get bored of yourself.
Intriguing, and something that can be looked at with warmth and like affection, like something that we're happy to have around, more than happy, and that it makes the world a better place. That it's not just our culture, but all kinds of cultures.
That's never been a problem in Britain, and to suggest otherwise, I think, is nonsense.
Yeah, I think so.
But at the moment, they're suggesting otherwise, and they're saying it has been a problem, and
it's the opposite.
British people haven't been accepting, and they haven't been aware of other cultures, and it's like,
you have to do that thing you were already doing but weren't. It's incredibly frustrating. It's like the idea of racism nowadays is it's almost become a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think it's just given people no choice but to have to talk about things, and
so I mean, with that all said, it just goes to show we don't care that suddenly all the Netflix new original series or recreations of and reboots of existing forms of media are suddenly they're putting in diversity in every single thing. We're not bothered by the content, we're bothered by the principle of it all. The fact that it is all just virtue signaling. That's what bothers me personally.
And it's not even just one part of it.
Because it's the idea behind it, not the actual content.
Something I clicked a couple of days ago was that with these things,
for the sake of it.
Well,
in one sense, and then the other sense is because it's trying to make a point that I disagree with strongly.
It's a similar sort of thing to the thing with football, right? They're screwing with things that people really care about.
Yeah.
Really care
Rather
about.
than making something new and innovative, contorting something that already exists.
But already they're trying to just make money off of that thing that people really care about. They're trying to make that thing more profitable, and then what they're doing is fucking with it.
And then they're trying to profit from exploiting
from
the
fucking with the
cultures
things
that they're trying
that
to
people care
represent
about.
more.
Exactly.
Well, no, that's one aspect. I'm saying the other aspect is they're financially exploiting races and cultures by shoehorning them into these things.
Yeah, no, they're...
So that's also quite disrespectful in a sense.
Yeah, pretty much. But
I
think they only respect their bank balances at the end of the day.
The other thing I find disproportionate is, and maybe it's just because of where I'm looking, is people are digging it up and cherry picking. But vegans, it seems like everything's vegan now.
Well, I wonder how many people are vegan nowadays.
Oh yeah, exactly. A lot of people don't understand.
Because it's probably a lot more than there was this time about 20, 30 years ago, at least in the UK.
I mean, in my opinion, and this is my humble opinion, and it's not worth a grain of salt, but vegan food, no dairy, no eggs, no meat. Quite simple. So it's alright. There's tons of vegan food out there.
Yeah.
salad,
whole idea of
lettuce is
just
vegan
makes me
food.
laugh.
Tomatoes are vegan food. I mean, if we're going to ignore the fact that countless insects, which are all living life technically, more than technically, demonstrably, they're not bacteria, that's for sure. But they get killed in the cultivation of all these plants. You can make a loaf of you can have a factory that makes purely vegan bread, and they've got replacement ingredients for things like eggs, so they don't need to go in there, etc. Still going to kill insects. They're still going to get crushed in the machinery and shit like that. Nothing's truly vegan. But I digress. The thing that annoys me is like, we're doing these vegan burgers. It's like, if you want to eat a vegan burger, eat mushrooms. Just put mushrooms in there.
But just
Whatever.
the idea of a vegan burger,
you don't
isn't that
need
just
to
insane?
it is insane. It
Vegan
annoys
sausages, vegan bacon.
Why do you need to pretend to eat meat if you morally disagree with eating meat?
Yeah, why pretend to do the thing that you're against?
I can understand. You can make the argument.
Not doing it.
I think murder is abhorrent.
Yeah,
but I could play a video game where I pretend to murder someone.
That's the thing.
No. That's not, you're not listening to the point I'm making. I think literal murder is abhorrent, but I might want to play a video game where I simulate murder.
I don't think literal murder is strictly abhorrent.
No, but if you were to make that argument, is my point. Hypothetically.
I mean, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But there's
shouldn't use that because it's a dangerous one. I could go on for ages.
They're simulating
morality of death or whatever.
They're simulating what I would call a fantastical action, and that's probably not the right word for it. And I shouldn't try and say that killing people is fantastical, but no one would ever go around just killing people without it being an extraordinary circumstance. But in a video game, you can simulate that fantastical experience. And I'm not trying to say positive connotation by using fantastical. It's just the best word I can use for it.
Yeah.
But then eating meat is quite a normal, everyday experience. And then if you morally disagree with that, then why would you want to pretend to keep doing it by making things that taste just like meat? It's like, if you think it's wrong, just eat vegetables. I just don't understand, it's vegan cheese. It's like, if you think that milking cows is wrong, don't try and pretend to keep eating cheese. Just don't eat it. Just eat nuts, eat potatoes, eat vegetables.
Yeah,
if you want to make poorer quality bread,
remind you of the things that you're against eating.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just ridiculous. But then you're starting to see, so less than 1% of the population's vegan, probably.
Probably.
A rough estimate. I probably could have prepared and looked this up.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit more than
as
that.
part of a trend, I guess.
It can't be more than 5%
in terms of being fashionable.
Yeah.
But then you get something like, Burger King are now doing the vegan burger. It's not even a veggie burger, because veggie burgers could have eggs in them, for example. It's the vegan burger, and it's just like, right, you're representing like a large part of your menu on, it's one item at the end of the day, maybe out of maybe 50, but you'll probably got more representation of vegans on your menu than you have an actual population. And if you were a vegan, why would you want to go to Burger King? Why would you want to give money and support something that ends up being a thing that facilitates a large amount of people having a requirement to keep killing animals? So you're funding.
If you use money, you can't help but do immoral things, because once you let that money go, you give that money to anybody, then what are they going to do with it? Have you checked their history? It's literally that.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
If you can't, and this is a root part of my view on eating animals, or whether you should or shouldn't be vegetarian. It's if you.
Because your morals on it are that if there wasn't industrial farming, you wouldn't eat meat.
Yeah.
If it was some small holdings and people killing animals for themselves.
Of millennia of human society and evolution, there already exists this entire industry that would exist whether I was here or not. Like, my existence is irrelevant to that industry. And even down to, if I stop buying meat from the shop,
it's not going to make
that isn't going to make a bunch of a difference. That meat will go in the bin. that will probably go to waste. Or,
Yeah.
We'll get put on a reduced sticker or whatever, or something to get it cheap or whatever. But either way, it's not going to make the blindest bit of bloody difference to make me a martyr for the evil condition of being a human being in modern society. That's just ridiculous. This is not, and so I will quote the great philosopher Tom Green: "It's already dead." I wouldn't be eating it if it wasn't already dead.
A barrel roll.
Sorry,
that's what happens when you bring up Tom Green.
There's one episode of the Tom Green show where he had a lobster, and he brought the lobster onto the stage, and he had a pan of water. And he's like, and then water puts the lobster in, and the lobster starts screaming or whatever, and he's like, and takes the lobster out, and starts hitting it with a hammer, and then starts eating it, and he's like, "It's already dead. I wouldn't be eating it if it wasn't already dead." I was like, that's funny, but then after that, like that whole sketch
made
stuck
you
in
have
my
a
head,
realization.
and it made me have a realization that
So
I wouldn't be eating
part
if
of comedy,
it wasn't already
right?
dead. Yeah,
Let's go on a tangent.
Yeah,
Someone
let's
might
do
make the
tangent.
point that is some disgusting comedy of like, massacring and like mutilating this animal on stage for entertainment purposes. But it's like, well, the point is, like you say, he has killed it, and you can argue, and it's been researched, that putting a lobster straight into boiling water, the shock.
Yeah, I'm not even sure it was a live lobster when he brought it on.
Very well, might not. I mean, you say it's screaming. The screaming is actually just the hissing of the
escape
of gases.
I think they put it on as a sound effect, honestly.
Yeah, I expect so.
Not too sure. It could be anything.
But someone could argue that was an abhorrent comedy sketch. But do you know what?
Would.
That comedy sketch made you have an epiphany based on morals, and that's an important thing.
I mean, I think the epiphany happened separate. It was almost like I was like,
that
is actually it was almost it offered a nice term, like
I'm always rubbing my nose. Sorry, I've got allergies.
Yeah, if people can tolerate a Slavoj Zizek, they'll probably tolerate this. And anyway, there's only nobody's watching. So.
But yeah, so I think even veganism is just fucking shoved down our throats, and it just makes people go, "Fuck vegans, fuck it." I don't want people don't like things shoved in their face.
It's mostly a fashion.
If someone went up to you, right,
and in part a religion, I think. I mean, add it to the list. Add it to the list of things that fill the religion shape.
Maybe
people can worship the vegetable instead.
Everyone likes chocolate chip cookies. I think that's arguable. Not everyone, not literally.
People who said they don't like chocolate, but I think they were just saying that to be edgy. To be honest.
Hang on, if you hear that's just the dog asking to play.
Yeah, it's not spirits. We're not haunted.
Well, now you're playing with her. You've just started playing with her.
Well, maybe. I didn't think it was playing.
Yeah, but she
like
does.
everything is playing to the dogs. So.
If she's got a toy in her mouth and you touch her head, you're playing with her. Anyway, we're getting distracted by dogs. There you go. So, arguably, and not literally.
Or anything. I'm not going to eat it.
I'm not going to take it off camera and spit on her.
Both of us to eat her, to be honest.
Yeah, she's pretty hefty.
Pretty heavy. Pretty hench pup.
So not literally, but in a hypothetical sense, everyone loves chocolate chip cookies. If you're sat there and someone takes a chocolate chip cookie and go, "Ah!" No matter how much you like chocolate chip cookies, you're gonna go fuck off. You might want to lash out. You're not gonna be happy. You're gonna be disgruntled. You're gonna be uncomfortable. This is why no one likes anything being shoved in their faces.
Yeah.
Sexuality, diet, race, culture, hobbies, what you did on the weekend. No one likes anything being shoved in anyone's face. Just don't shove things in people's faces.
As you mentioned,
it could be the nicest thing in the world, something everyone likes. Don't shove it in someone's face.
Some things are private things. I mean, if it was a chocolate chip cookie, that would be something that we wouldn't want to happen. Imagine if it was, I don't know, somebody's groin.
Yeah.
Like,
if I could just correct one thing in the world, it would just be that people don't put things in other people's faces.
Yeah.
If someone wants to inquire about your sexuality, if someone wants to inquire about my sexuality, if someone wants to inquire about my morals on my diet or anything, or how much I think people should exercise, then they can ask me that, and I can divulge that to them at my leisure, at their leisure, and on an agreed level that we've both agreed that this is an exchange of information that we want to engage in. And in a culture where people have realised the importance of consent, suddenly people aren't consenting divulgence of information. People don't want to be told things that they don't want to listen to necessarily. People don't consent
people didn't consent to be subjected to psychological manipulation via media and such like this. And like I mentioned before,
that's it being crammed down our faces.
In psychology module I did, that's a philosophy module, there was a shoehorned in little subsection of the study about nudge theory, which is basically, is it moral to use little nudges to steer society and people into doing the correct thing? And
because who should decide what's correct?
So it's almost like they're saying, so what they're suggesting is it moral to lie to people to fulfill your own ends? And it's like,
what kind of question is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, because they have.
Why is that even a question?
Who defines what is morality and what is a moral action,
and then
what a nudge
turns
is,
into fine,
exactly.
But then one person says, "Well, ours is an objectively good truth," and then someone else comes into power and they're like, "Well, we're going to keep using those rules," and now our different version of that truth is now what will you apply with nudge culture.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it was shoehorned in and not spoke about so much in the module textbooks and such, because it's supposed to be maybe a little secret, because it's something that happens that people don't want people thinking too much about, don't want to overthink, the way that the way you think is being manipulated via psychology through media. But yeah.
Frustrated dog noises. So the last part of this segment is I've titled this as forcing our hand, playing their game. So it feels like we've been put into a situation where it's I hate identity politics. I hate the idea of it. But if they're making the rules and they're deciding what the rules are, fine, we've got to play their game. Well, do we?
Yeah.
That's our moral decision, I guess.
I don't think ever that
I don't think it's necessarily right.
You should suggest a better game.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be the way.
But in some circumstances, if we did have to play their game,
so
things like...
This could be seen in the way that UKIP...
People going, as a white person, I need to do this because as a black person, they've said this. And it's like, okay, I don't like identity politics, but if I can suddenly, fine, I'm part of your narrative. You could, if someone says, oh, LGBT people are this way, and you can turn around and go, well, I'm LGBT and I disagree. So you're having to, as much as I hate identity politics, you can then turn it right back on them and go, I'm going to use my identity as part of my argument. And sure, they'll probably turn around and go, like a child on the playground going, no, I'm not it when you tag me because I held my hand in the air, constantly bending the rules.
I think a lot of this is to do with the playground.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what we see with progressive culture, feminism, all these sort of things, it's just an extension of playground arguments. Boys are
making
better than
up
girls,
the rules as they go
girls
along.
Are better than boys, like kiss chases and whatnot, basically that sort of stuff. Like, it's
But if the only way to make an argument against them that they'll listen to is to say, fine, here's my identity that fits part of your narrative, and I disagree with you, do it. They might turn around, or they likely will turn around and say, oh, well, you don't count, you're not the right type of this person, you're not the right type of that person, you're not really black because you disagree with us. And fine, but then that just exposes their hypocrisy.
Because, everybody could use the line of the ghost of Christmas present at them, that they've never met the likes of me before. Because they haven't. They don't know any of these people that they're trying to predict the thoughts of from round corners and never even meeting them before. So they don't even know.
And then
they don't know people. That's the problem. And so that's why they seem to think that everybody can share all the world, just because they can't imagine all the people. If you could imagine all the people, you could realise why they can't share all the world.
And then you can just take the game further and start bending the rules. Or not bending the rules. You're going to use their rules, but it's like what Zuby did, where he suddenly said, I'm a woman today. And then he broke, he lifted what was more than the woman's deadlift world record.
That would be
suddenly he becomes the new world record holder. Because
world class.
If he can just decide that he's a woman, he's a woman.
Yeah.
And if she's suddenly broken that record, she's now the record holder. And who are you to say otherwise? And in the world of IT, we call this pen testing, or it's short for penetration testing, in the sense of you will go in to someone, if you're paid to pen test, you will go into their workplace and you'll purposely and lawfully break their IT system or try your best to, whether that's through finding glitches, finding exploits, using software, manipulating hardware, or even social engineering, talking to people, looking under people's keyboards for post-it notes with passwords, or going into their drawers and see if they've got a little black book with log-on details, or
like a mystery shopper, but
going
like
up
a
to someone,
hacker.
Going up to someone and say, "Oh, I just need to use your computer. Can you give me your password, please?" And if they give it to you, you're in the system, and that's penetration testing. And it's like, fine, we can do this too. We can go, you've made the rules for intersectional social justice. That's fine. I'm going to show you the flaws in these rules. I'm going to show you how we're going to break these rules.
We've seen happen already.
We're going to manipulate these rules. We're going to take advantage of them.
Either unconsciously or consciously, there's people doing it. Even people who are breaking the rules maliciously for their own. That was the wax my balls trans, which is interesting. Without even ever hearing anybody refer to that Jessica Yaniv or whatever as the wax my balls trans, I've heard the rest of the internet seems to be just referring to them as that now. But I mean, that's one side of it. That's one way it could go. That it's like pat testing their system or whatever. That obviously doesn't work because you've allowed this to occur. And then there's people like the hoax grievance studies that I mentioned who are trying to get admittedly self-aware bollocks studies, false studies published to show that anything can get through this.
Look at these great big glaring flaws and holes in your system that you're allowing to perpetuate.
But I mean, as many have pointed out, this is the product of the postmodernist mentality, the idea that there is no fundamental truths to things, and it's like I mean, there's lots of ways you could address that statement, but I think the right answer is probably no. There isn't a fundamental truth to things. There's lots of fundamental truth to things. There's different dimensions of fundamental truth to things, but there are fundamental truths to things. There's not a truth. There's multiple truths. There's different ways of looking at things. It's like I said earlier on about how if things true on multiple levels of analysis, then that's good, and it's almost like they can find something that's true on one thin layer of analysis and then go,
bam, gospel.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll use terms like gospel because it keeps getting used to fill religion. So it's up to us whether we decide it's moral to pen test intersectional social justice, or if we just take the other stance of it of just, no, I won't play their game, I won't go by their rules. Like you say, here's the other set of rules. You can come play my game, or you can go play their game. There's a stupid game with stupid prizes. Ours is a more sensible game. There might be no prizes, but it's a more sensible game. People seem to be enjoying it more. People seem to be getting along.
That's the thing. People seem to play their game or play your game.
Yeah.
That's the choice it seems to have. And it's like,
I think the one where people enjoy themselves more, have a better time, don't have falling out, and aren't arguing over the rules constantly is probably a better game.
Well, yeah.
One where people can agree on the rules and everyone can enjoy themselves and everyone can have a good time seems like a better game than the one where half the people, or not even half the people, but some sort of percentage, whether it's a large or minority or a majority, are going, this is god awful.
I like the reality where people generally don't agree on the game. They don't agree on things in general, but they get along regardless. And that's how it always used to be. Like people could see things different ways, but then that's fine because we're all individuals. We've only got our own unique perspective on things, and it's almost like the progressives and the postmodernists kind of, they get some of it right. There is infinite different dimensions of analysis. There is infinite different perspectives, but that doesn't mean that they're all equal. equal is the wrong word to use there. As soon as you say that they're all different, how can you say they're equal? This just doesn't make any sense.
Just respect that they're individual and that's good. Why does it need to be more than that?
That's the thing, because individualism is like, it's the good part of the whole, where it's almost where progressivism came from, but then decided to twist itself round and then bury its origins. It's, you know, Ayn Rand now, it's basically female Hitler, I think. And
really?
But, I mean, well,
is that really how she's being?
She was treated? An individualist, and she had
treated.
How in academic circles, Ayn Rand's a bit like, well, that's the devil's work. Taboo. That is, it's just occult material sort of thing. And the only reason for that is she has a few questions to ask over homosexuality, I think, and that she wanted to say that there is differences between races, and that there's a genetic underpinning to people's individuality as well as a conditioning, and because of that, it's like, you're saying that there's things that aren't socially engineered. Well, that means that you must be just wrong and evil and a racist, basically, and all sorts of things that are the words that are attached to people to tell them that they're literally Hitler or whatever.
Well, if the world continues on this way, I won't just want Atlas to shrug. I want him to just drop the ball.
Yeah, maybe. Kick it down a hill.